Okay, hello everybody. This is Claudia Johnson, and I'm going to be the moderator for this very interesting webinar. We have three very distinguished guests who will be sharing very cutting-edge tools that are right now in development that can be used to help the self-represented or those without attorneys. And then we will be doing a quick review of the current, what I consider bread and butter tools that are already in use. And then we're also going to be reviewing some analogies from the healthcare world, where they have been doing a lot of technology and a lot of health education and behavior modification as a discipline for probably since the 1960s. So in a lot of ways, they're a lot more advanced than we are in the legal context. So jumping right in reviewing, preparing for the topic, some of the cornerstones of design of online tools that apply to any kind of online tool that's going to be used for somebody that doesn't have a lawyer. There's kind of three cornerstones or bases that I think are important to keep in mind: design, content, and incorporating three different types of knowledges and what we know about how people assimilate information. So on the design front are the obvious things like, keeping up with ADA best practices, having content that is culturally competent, having content that is easily findable, that can work well with search engine optimization, content that is multilingual, content that is in plain language, etc. I think that all of these apply to everything that we're going to cover about. And then on the content side, I think that one of the biggest breakthroughs right now is our movement towards video guides, podcasts, customized checklists, website, chat, etc. So it's what makes the content interactive. We're moving beyond flyers posted on a static website with a bunch of text. We're really moving to our place where consumers are interacting a whole lot more with the screen. And then on the incorporating the three types of knowledge and how the brain works, there was a presentation about this at LSNTAP, and so I'm not going to cover that a whole lot, but the link can be found on the resources, where we show some websites designed specifically targeting those three types of knowledge and then incorporating the basics of how our brain assimilates information. So I'll encourage you to look at that webinar. So let me screen down. In terms of what others are thinking, there was recently an international meeting of legal aid in Europe, and Richard Sorsa actually blogged this paper out, and I went and I read it, and it was very interesting. And basically, it was a study by Richard Smith that looked at websites in England and Wales, and then also looked at hotlines. And he makes some very clear conclusions and recommendations. But I think that what was, for me, that really echo is that we are now beyond, just posting flyers on websites, and what we're really moving towards, or where we need to go, is to applications, and I don't necessarily mean just cell phone apps, which are changing the way in which the consumer interacts with that information. So here he talks about logical decision trees, but this could go beyond that. So I'm citing the paper here, and I encourage all of those here interested to read it, because it kind of says very succinctly where the trend is going in terms of how we're understanding how non-experts need to access tools to help themselves. So in terms of current tools in use, there are, what I consider like the eggs, the butter, and the yeast, if you're going to bake, or baking powder, the basic kind of tools that are now well understood and well developed. Online forms, online intake, web chat, websites with the latest advancement being focused on very specific large volume issues. Mini portals they're called mini portals or something like that sometimes, and videos and tutorials and things that let people help themselves, train themselves. So in terms of online forms, there's a lot of different types of online forms in use. ICANN was the precursor of the online form kiosk model in the late 90s. Adobe PDF forms, there are many different types of Adobe PDF forms, and courts tend to use this. There is LawHelp Interactive, which is the LSC-funded project that we run out of Pro Bono Net, and this is being used across the United States using hotdocs and A2J author software. There's Wufoo forms, there's LegalZoom, there's Rapid Courts, Rapid Docs, there's Turbo Courts on the commercial front end. So there are many different forms. I actually work on the LawHelp Interactive initiative that targets the self-represented pro bono and legal aid use of online forms for low income, so I'm going to focus on that quickly. What we're learning in the LawHelp Interactive context, and I think it applies also to other tools, is that the online forms standardize the content. They allow for electronic remote sharing. They make the information reusable. People don't have to re-enter the same captions from one form to the next. There's less training required. Paralegals, clerks, law students can use it because the content is standardized and the expertise it's included in the design. It does calculations without making mistakes other than entry mistakes, things like that. And if you're working in a large volume setting or with massive pleadings, it's only one URL that can produce multiple different versions of the same document without having to give the person a binder or a big file to do and fill out. So those are kind of the main benefits that are being documented in the places that use online forms en masse. Web chat, there are many different types of web chat options, and if you shop on Walgreens or some of the big vendors, there's generally a web chat option, where you can ask for help finding whatever product you're looking for. It's the same concept but applies to legal aid and to information seekers in the legal context. So some of you may know from that personal experience. In legal services and in the information referral world, we have a web chat tool called LawHelp that is managed by Pro Bono Net that has been used for over 4 years, and right now it's currently used in 11 states. What we have found about web chat is that it works really well when the website is very mature, it's a very visited website, and there's a lot of really good content to surface out. This is what the web chat that we help states use looks like. Some states can modify it and customize it, but you can see that it's emotionally compelling. You can put a nice face or a nice icon that it's relevant to your community and your users. This is the way it can look. It has the ability to have navigators who are the people that are answering the web chat on the back end, and we can have canned notes, and people can engage back and forth one-on-one. So it goes back to the design point of it being interactive and being custom as much as it can be in this context. So that's web chat. In terms of websites focused on specific issues that cover large groups, the mini portals I was referring to, I'm giving you 2 examples on the issue of foreclosure, but there are many more. But basically, focusing on one particular issue and designing a mini portal that lives off a larger, well-known website that summarizes all the information that a person dealing with that issue would need. And it can include online forms, it can include videos, it can include referrals, it can include, just general brochures, and very county-specific information. So that's the concept of we're creating more custom and more focused, not just substantive area, but also geographic area. This other one is one that I just found out about in Ohio that's on the same issue, and they're taking the same approach. They're doing an online, information place where people can find everything that they may need if they're facing referral in Ohio. And they have it very well designed by geo. So a lot of tools. So videos and what I call beyond the talking heads trend and tools that are developing that are kind of becoming very well understood is the concept that a lot of our communities prefer more graphical and more information that is simpler and easier to understand than a lot of legal writing. So in looking at WashingtonLawHelp.org, I went and I did a search for videos, and they have a collection of 124 items in there. They have a YouTube channel, which you can check out, and I put that in the resources. And what is really interesting, and actually what I think people should check out, is that what they're doing with their videos is that they're doing them very graphically and very simply, in a way that this can be easily translated. And they have thought of the graphics to make them really kind of culture neutral. And these are great for people who have low literacy. So instead of just recording talking heads talking to each other or trying to do skits, the move is now towards more graphical type illustrations. So I encourage you to check out the NJP collection, and there's many other legal aid sites with videos that can give you an idea of how much this is moving forward. In terms of tools that are in development, which is what we're going to focus on right now, and I will end here for now, there are triage tools, there's SMS texting, there's websites that are now starting to promote interaction with lay experts, not attorneys. We have lay support systems, and a whole set of new apps that are coming on board. In the apps world, just quickly, pro bono apps that are now in place in Illinois and are being developed in Minnesota. There are e-learning apps with flashcards in Citizenship Works, an immigration website that's focusing on helping people become citizens. There's Find Legal Help, GPS tracking SMX, and there's calculator apps to help do waivers, figure out calculations where people can go and say very quickly, do I qualify for this or not? So these are apps, and here are examples. On the triage world, that's a new emerging technology, and I am going to transition to Gordon Shaw, who's the Executive Director of Massachusetts Justice Project, and he will talk about the online triage tools that are being developed right now that could be very helpful to guide people looking for help.
Okay. So again, we are developing this web-based tool called the Massachusetts Legal Resource Finder. And what it is, it's a web-based tool that will connect low-income persons to the Massachusetts legal resources that will correlate with their specific legal issues. Why is this needed? What is it going to try to do? What problem is it going to try to solve? So every day, legal aid programs are flooded with requests for assistance, and if you were involved with managing hotlines or intake systems, you probably know that a lot of the folks that call in are calling in with issues that probably will not make it beyond maybe a simple answer to a question, or probably referral to some self-help resources. And unfortunately, often after long waits in a phone queue, programs are stretched thin across the board, and this extends to screening, intake, and hotline resources as well. I think it's fairly accurate to say that when programs have gone through a period of retraction these last couple of years, and one of the places programs typically went to cut were probably frontline admin support people, the people who are on the front line answering your phones, making it more challenging to sort of be accessible to your potential clients. So the goal of the Legal Resource Finder, the RF, is to give some relief to our overburdened intake systems, while at the same time provide consumers with a quick and accessible way to find out what resources exist with respect to legal issues. Another way of saying this is that, our screening and intake resources are limited, just like everything else. So let's make sure we're using them as efficiently as possible. At the same time, we want to make sure we should be forthright with our client community about what we do, and certainly not waste their time calling into programs only to be told that there's information that could have just as easily gotten off the web. I should also add, this is not, what I'm about to show is not something for everybody that calls your program. This is a system that's targeted to those within our client community that are using the web and can function on the web. Certainly, it's not going to replace phone intake. There's certainly going to always be a segment of our client community that will need to be assisted by calling in through the phone. The goal is to sort of reduce the number of inquiries coming into the program that may not end up going any further than that initial phone call. How it will work. A user will complete a short online form with a limited number of questions about their legal problem and household demographics. And in a couple seconds, I'm going to actually demo the site for you. The legal resource finder will then search a database and give back to the user information that can include any of the following things. First and foremost, it's going to do a search to determine if that type of issue is one which any of our many legal service programs across Massachusetts actually does provide legal assistance on. And then if it does, it provides them with information on how to apply with that program, including links to their online intake if that's available. But this is the piece I really like. It's not going to turn people away empty-handed. It's going to then also generate for them links to the online self-help content that we've developed in Massachusetts for those types of problems, including we do have some online forums that we have developed in the last few years through LHI, on the LHI platform, and also on ICANN. And then also we're thinking we're going to be able to add in some key other resources that may be relevant to people's problems. For example, our Department of Revenue is our child support agency in Massachusetts. It may be appropriate to refer people to them for assistance, since they do provide assistance to all comers. How it will work for the programs is that our partner programs, and this resource finder is being developed for the entire Massachusetts legal aid community. We have something close to 20 distinct legal aid programs in Massachusetts. And all of these programs and a few of our additional sort of partner programs will be invited to set up profiles in our database in which they'll be able to identify the types of issues that they would like to see sort of forwarded to them through this resource finder. And I'm going to show you how that works in just a second. How programs will go about doing that. Who's building it? Well, the Mass Justice Project received a TIG last year, so we're building it this year, and we're working closely with our statewide websites project, which is run through Mass Law Reform. They're helping us with the design and implementation, and the legal resource finder will actually be hosted on our one of our state legal information websites. So I'm going to now jump over to the site itself. Hang on a second. Okay. So let me also just start off by saying this is still a site that's under development. It's not live yet. We're still sort of working on the content and the display, and I just want to say that this initial introductory language is still sort of language that we're working with. But what I do want to focus you on is sort of the below here, the list of what we call top-level legal issues that the users will select from, and then dig deep into particular kinds of cases. So, for example, someone coming in doing a search, say they live in Boston, they'll fill in where they live, a zip code or the name of the city. We have a lot of programs do intake have certain special criteria for intake based upon whether someone's a senior or not, so they would be able to designate that. The number of people in the household and monthly income. And since say someone's calling because they want to do a bankruptcy, they would go to the bankruptcy icon and open up, and underneath that, hopefully what you see here are issues like folks typically call into a legal aid program for help with a full range of things, including things that we really don't handle, but people do call in about. Because remember, one of the goals is to sort of redirect the people who are calling about things that don't become cases in your program to the appropriate self-help or alternative resources. So this is our bankruptcy section. What we did in developing this was sort of come up with a list of couple hundred legal issues that typically get presented at the front door of legal aid programs. Let me just back up here and show you another section. Family law is an interesting. That was one that presented one of the greatest challenges in sort of mapping this out. So if someone's coming in with a family law question, I think one of the sort of initial threshold issues that determines whether a program may accept someone or want to look at their intake depends upon whether there's domestic violence involved. So you would either select yes or no. And then also another sort of big general intake divide question is whether there are children involved. And then depending on how you answer that, it breaks out into different branches. And so if this person is coming in with DV and they have children and they say they want to help with a divorce, it just keeps opening up and allows the user to hone in to the specific type of case they're seeking help with. They want to file divorce. And then they hit search. And this is the display page. And what you're looking at now is just sort of a mock-up of what the display, a version of the display page that we're sort of working with now. We may tinker with this some more, but what's noteworthy about this page is what it is actually showing the user. It'll list programs that are a match for their legal issue. So, for example, say Greater Boston Legal Services is our program that serves the Boston area. It would likely be the program listed first here. We do have in Massachusetts some statewide organizations that can help on certain issues, education being one of those issues where we have a statewide program. But the thing I really like is what's going to appear over here, the ability to sort of target to the user self-help resources or other resources. And we sort of come up with two sort of general categories of resources. There may be, so this is a family law problem, so we may have some sort of very basic level generic family law resources that might apply across a whole spectrum of family law issues, which would be listed here. Such as, how does our family and probate court work, sort of generic information, how to present your case in a court. But then beneath that, we're going to target to them certain key resources that speak specifically to the type of problem they're dealing with. This is sort of the initial layout that we've come up with. We have yet to map this section here, and we're still wondering how much content we're going to want to provide here. I think that'll be determined once we sort of figure out what the totality of the resources are, but and it may be that we might come up with a different format for this. But basic point is that this is the content that will be displayed for folks after they hit submit. I should also add that there may be no matches to programs, and it may just be self-help resources, because one of the goals of this is to try to divert the people who are not going to be matches, who are calling about issues that are not going to be accepted within your for intake or full intake, to divert them to these other resources that you would just be sharing with them over the phone or by letter. Next, let me show you how a program will set up a profile on the site. So the partner programs will be invited to join, and they'll be able to log in up here. I'm already actually logged in, but they'll be able to log into this site, and they will go right now. The way they enter into this to set up a profile or modify their profile would be through this link here, Add New Partner Program, and they're giving a form in which they will fill out information. information. Up here, there's 3 tabs. The first tab is information basic information about the program, obviously where they're located, phone numbers, email, websites, online intake URL, and so forth. It also will give them some space to put some additional notes about their program that they may want to share on a display page, and also some intake notes. For example, maybe the family law intake unit is temporarily shut down because someone's on vacation or something. It may be possible to put in a note like that that says we've temporarily shut down this part of our intake. Please call us back after this date. That's the basic information page, and then they go to both of these tabs. Then define the services they provide, either based on a client who's either an elder or not an elder. And the reason we did that is because it was sort of tricky to sort of be able to set up this data search without having sort of a dual way to search. I think a lot of programs know the elder funding sort of has its own eligibility criteria. We didn't want to be able to lose that by cutting off people who were maybe falling under other grants, largely driven by the LSC funding. So the organization coming in will select what their service area is. They'll be able to either select it by, these are the counties in Massachusetts, by county, or list the actual cities on which they serve. And then down here, there is the outline of issues. And they will go in and go through each of these and select which issues, say for example, they want to see referred to their program. So looking here at employment, we've sort of created a first branch here of folks who have issues with unemployment benefits, issues involving an employer that's not a former employer that's not involving unemployment, and then other problems involving a current employer. And then they would just open these up and go in and basically put check marks in the next to the different issues. They want to see a search result return yes, refer them to my program. So programs will be able to go in on, instantaneously and update their intake, what they're accepting for cases. They'll have control over that, providing maximum flexibility and real-time updates. And this will get submitted, and that's how we're creating our database. So let me go back to the home page just to show you that again here. And so this is the design, and we're hopeful that it will lead to the results I just promised at the outset. And Jillian, are we taking questions at this point, or are we moving on?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Claudia for any questions.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Caldwell. I'm the website coordinator for Pine Tree Legal Assistance, which is the statewide LSC grantee in Maine. And I'm also the website coordinator for Stateside Legal, which is a national website for military members, veterans, and their families that was funded by LSC TIG grants. And I've been asked to show off 3 things that we've done here. Something we call Jim's Mailbag, and then a couple of LHI interviews of the type that Claudia mentioned earlier. I'll give you a couple examples of those. So this Jim's Mailbag thing that we came up with, there's a little story behind that. When we first started designing the stateside site, we kept hearing about this guy, Jim Strickland, who is a Vietnam veteran, disabled veteran himself, and he has sort of taken on this avocation of being an online VA disability benefits guru. and he already had a huge audience. I've put up the link to his site here. So we kind of reeled him in little by little. First he joined our advisory board, and then we took over his VA claims guide, and eventually we were able to talk him into doing this mailbag thing on our site. So people basically who are already corresponding him, veterans who are already corresponding with him, he gets thousands of emails a month, we're able to submit questions through our website. He answers all of them, but the ones that he thinks are of interest to the general veterans audience, he posts the questions and the answers on the website. So it's been wildly popular, and we're really happy to have him because he drives a lot of traffic to our site. So because it's so popular, you can see this is our home page. We feature Jim's mailbag front and center, and we feature on the home page his most recent question and answer submission. If you go to this View All button, you go to the landing page for his mailbag, and here's a picture of Jim over here, and his disclaimer and our disclaimer and a little bit about him. And then his question and answers are lined up on the right here, pretty much blog style. And people can just click on this button to go to mail him a question, and then he goes through the process that I just explained to you. Technical difficulties? Should I keep going?
Keep going. We're fine, Kathleen.
Okay. So here's our Google Analytics for this complete mailbag page that I just showed you, and you can see since January 1, 2011, it's gotten 45,000 page views. We got a big bump in January 2012. I'm not sure what happened then, but it's been pretty steady since then. And here's our Google Analytics page for one of his most popular question and answers, which is how CMP exams factor into how benefits are determined. And you can see during the same time period, we've received about 8,000 views on that page. And he's submitted over 400 Q&As over this time period, so you can do the math. I mean, they're not all this popular, but 8,000 times 400, it's a lot of traffic. So here's my assessment of what I think makes Jim's mailbag successful. If you're looking for somebody to do some kind of feature like this on your site, he posts a lot. Sometimes I get stuff from Jim in the middle of the night. He's constantly communicating, emailing with vets. He is a vet. He talks the language. They understand each other, and he really gives people an inside view and the real scoop rather than what they're going to find on an official website. So people really trust him. We were lucky to find him when he already had a pretty wide audience, so we didn't have to go through the process of building up his audience. That was just kind of a serendipitous, lucky thing on our part. And he really, I would say, look for somebody who has, maybe their specialty is narrow, but they know that topic inside out. I don't think there's anybody around that knows the VA claim system better than Jim. And I think that's why he's successful too, because he's really narrowed in on this specific thing and he knows his topic really well. And so the veterans who follow him really trust his advice. So find somebody with a lot of time and energy, somebody who's knowledgeable. It doesn't have to be an attorney. Jim's a lay advocate. He's not an attorney, and I think in some ways he knows how to communicate with his audience better because of that. and somebody who can write conversationally and is engaged and will feel supported by the person who's blogging or answering their questions. And Jim has a great style, and it's not at all, he doesn't dumb down, but it's not legalese, and so I think he has a really good ability to communicate with people, and you need to find somebody who can write in that fashion. The second tool that I've been asked to talk about is what we call the legal aid checkup tool. And the reason we came up with this idea is because we were hearing in the media when recently discharged veterans were talking about their adjustment back into society. They talked about how regimented everything is in the military and how they always go by checklists, and then they get back out into the world and everything seems disorganized. So we thought, oh, well, maybe we should come up with a checklist. So we built this tool in Hot Docs, thinking that was a good way to formulate a checklist to help veterans come up with, identify their legal issues, and to start kind of put them in a direction of where to start with dealing with that legal issue. So this is our stateside launch page for the Legal Needs Checkup Tool, and if you follow this link at the bottom, you'll be sent to the LawHelp interactive site. And this, for those of you who don't know, this is what Claudia was referring to before as a documented assembly option, and that's what we used, Hot Docs. And so you'll see the veteran comes to, or the web user comes to a checklist here, and that's all it is. It's really a very simple tool. And we've tried to describe common legal issues in simple terms, and the user just goes through and checks whatever legal issues they want to learn more about. This is the top half of the checklist, and this is the bottom half of the checklist. Then after they go through the checklist, they receive a document. So when I went through the checklist, I checked three things. I checked debt collection, being sued, and criminal law. And so what what the document delivers is just some really basic information about each of those three topics and where somebody can go to start resolving their legal problem. For example, on being sued, we spent a lot of time here talking about the Service Member Civil Relief Act for active military people who can use that to delay legal proceedings against them, and we've sent them to some online tools that we have so they can notify their court that they have this defense. For criminal law, we've referred active military people to their legal assistance offices on their base. For veterans, we're referring them to their state public defender's office, and we have a referral here to a guide to criminal law for veterans that we've written on our own site. And then at the bottom of each document, we tell the user about how to find local legal aid on our legal aid finder map, and how they can ask further questions through our feedback form. And finally, we deliver the URLs at the bottom. So if somebody prints out this document where the URLs are hidden, they can still find the online references in the printout. So we put this up in December 2012. We're still working on it. These things are always a work in progress. But according to our LHI statistics, we had 346 interviews in the first 2 quarters. The second quarter was much higher than the first quarter, and 178 documents generated. And we're continuing to test this through a neighborhood center in Portland, Maine that serves homeless veterans. What they're telling us is that our answers are still too complicated I guess I can't emphasize that enough. You know, I've been working at this plain language stuff for 30 years, but it never ends. Simplify, simplify, simplify is the message there. And the last tool that I've been asked to talk about is a sort of similar tool. It's built in the same software, Hot Docs, Don't Leave Money on the Table, we call it. And this one is to help our web users sort out what programs they might be eligible for. We've incorporated 30 of the most common programs offered by the VA, the Department of Defense, and then other programs you're more familiar with like SNAP, LawHelp, Earned Income Tax Credit. And we've also included programs through the VA for dependents and survivors. And so we've set up a logic tree and set up a more typical Hot Docs interview on this one. This is actually a very much more complicated tool to try to help people sort out what benefits they may be eligible for. Say I'm disabled. It's very complicated if I'm a veteran because there are two different VA programs. There are DOD benefits. There's SSI. There's Social Security, disability. It becomes very complicated. And so what we're trying to do here is help the web user start sorting out all of those programs and what they might be eligible for. So this is the launch page on stateside for that tool. And if you click at the bottom here, here's the interview. So this looks, for those of you who are familiar with Hot Docs, this is a more typical Hot Docs interview. So I'm going through the interview and I say that I'm a veteran, that I'm disabled, that I was dishonorably discharged, and then I'm running out of time, but you keep going through the interview, and I answered that I have children, that I had earnings, that my income is low enough that I have difficulty paying for my basic needs, maybe a couple other things. And the document that's returned to me looks like this. So because I said that I had earnings and I had a low income, I receive information about the Earned Income Tax Credit and where to go to get started with figuring out if I'm eligible and how I would apply, i.e. by filing a tax return. Similarly, because I said I was low income, I'm going to be given some beginner information about SNAP, about TANF, about LawHelp. We also included a section here saying go to our Find Map and go to legal aid offices where you can find out more about low-income programs that are state or local. And then because I said I had a disability, I returned information about Social Security, disability, SSI, and VA disability compensation, and where to get started in applying for those benefits and figuring out if I'm eligible. And finally, I'm returning information about Medicaid and VA health care. So I guess these are my main takeaways. These tools take a long time to do. They're complicated. They take a lot of resources. So it's really important before you start to really think hard about what your clients, your web visitors are needing, are looking for. And this includes, going out on the web and seeing what's out there, making sure you're not reinventing the wheel, looking at your Google Analytics, talking to your intake workers, and finally, coming up with something that's doable, but that you can reasonably speculate will be in demand. Similarly, with planning, you need to think about the functionality. As Claudia was talking about before, there's video now, there's gaming, there's document assembly, there's ATJ, there are a lot of great tools out there. But you need to think about, okay, which tool do I need for this particular topic. For example, the way we came up with the checklist for the veterans, that immediately makes us think hot docs. And then it maybe goes without saying, but you always have to use your beginner mind. Most of us have been dealing with a lot of these topics for a long time. We know a lot about them. We make a lot of assumptions. We use a lot of acronyms. And you really have to over and over and over go back to the beginning and make sure that you're not making assumptions that are overlooking things that your user doesn't know. I often think about just sitting down, if I'm sitting down in my office with a client who knows nothing, and where do I start, and what do I tell them first, and what do I tell them second. And finally, you build this thing, you put your heart and soul into it, and you're really tired. You don't want it to be done, but you have to keep testing, and you've got to keep improving it. And then after you do all that, when you launch it and you can start getting feedback from your users, you have to pay attention to that too and listen. And if you want a really great tool, you have to keep working on it, and maybe for months until you really get it to the point where the end user feels satisfied with it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Kathleen.
what I got. Yep.
Thank you so much. So we're going to continue and look at SMS texting project that's being developed in Virginia, and this is to do appointment reminders. While we transition screens, does anybody have any questions for Kathleen, either on the Mailbag idea project that they have in Maine, or on the Leave No Cash on the Table type project? Okay. If we don't have any questions, then now we're going to move to our presenter, Raquel Colon, who is the Deputy Director in Legal Services of Northern Virginia. And Raquel, I'm showing my screen. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I will be scrolling for you. So let me know when to move down.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are. My name is Raquel Colon. I am the Director of Development of Legal Services in Northern Virginia. And today I'm going to talk to you about the appointment reminder system project that we have, which is part of a LSC Technology Initiative grant. The basis behind this idea that we had was to be able to come up with a system that would be able to notify our clients of upcoming office appointments, hearing dates, visits with their attorneys, and we wanted to be able to send out these reminders via SMS message or voice messages. And so one of the things that we also wanted to be able to do was to be able to merge our appointment reminder system with our case management system so that they can work together and to be able to effectively send out a reminder to our clients. Next screen, please, Claudia. One of the areas that we wanted to talk about was the need for the project and the goals for the project. One of the reasons that we established this project is because we wanted to reduce the number of no-show appointments. We looked at what no-show appointments that we had, our demographics, and realized that we had a large number of applicants who did not show up for their first-time appointments, and we wanted to be able to get them into the office so that we could look at their facts, their legal facts, and possibly help them with their upcoming court dates. So that was one of the main goals that we had in looking at this project. The other reason was we wanted to be able to link this project with technology and with providing access to justice for our clients. and access to services, especially for those clients who have a smartphone and who do have SMS or email capabilities. A recent study from the Pew Foundation actually found that 35% of Americans now have a smartphone, or 73% of all Americans have a cell phone with text messages. So the goals that we had in mind was to be able to increase our efficiencies, to be able to provide better services for our clients, to be able to use a system that would reduce the number of calls or missed appointments, and to be able to minimize the time that we had. When we came up with the project plans, the three things that we wanted to be able to do as part of this appointment reminder system was to, at minimum, have a time, a date, and a location of appointments. Those were the three factors that we really thought were essential and able to make this appointment reminder system work. So how does the system work? Well, we are developing an appointment reminder system that will extract information from our case management system, that will then place an appointment reminder call, and we'll be able to track whether or not calls were made, if they were unsuccessful attempts, and if the clients actually showed up for the appointment, they actually did receive an appointment reminder. So there are a couple of things that we're working with to be able to do this, and one of the main pieces was to be able to connect this with our case management system. The goal that we had in mind for the appointment reminder system on the voice aspect of it, or the call aspect, was to use text-to-speech capabilities to be able to call the client a certain amount of times during the day to remind them of the appointment. So we certainly had to set up parameters that have to do with frequency or time frame. And as far as text, we wanted to be able to develop a system that would allow us to send out SMS messages. And the system that we have in mind, the vendor that we will be using is Twilio, which actually provides a platform for us to be able to connect the coding and the API system with our case management system. That way, it would, with Twilio and tweaking it with our system, it would limit us to using 160 characters in text, and to be able to include certain things like Bitleys, in which we could include additional information about the appointment. For example, with the Bitely, we would be able to tell our clients or applicants what to bring for their appointments, what additional information would be necessary, and things like that. And so with the case management system, a very important aspect of this appointment reminder system is to be able to connect the case management system with the interface of the appointment reminder system. LSMV uses KEMPS as our case management system. And so within that system, we wanted to be able to build error checking, and as well as build fail-safe mechanisms. For example, we want it to be sensitive to the needs of our domestic violence victims. And when we have an applicant who's a domestic violence victim and they, for safety issues, prefer for us not to send them either a voice or a text message. With our case management system, we would be able to flag those type of criteria and not send out a message, and that way make sure that the DV victim is in a safe environment. So with the case management system, we can then set up certain fields or categories in which we would be able to perform the messaging system. Also with the system, it would report back to the case management system the outcome of the calls, the completions, any unsuccessful attempts. All of that will be put back into the case management system under the client's notes. That way, if a client or an applicant came in and said, I was I didn't receive a message, we would be able to go back into the client's information and see whether or not an attempt was made. It could also trigger if maybe the client provided us a number that was incorrect, or if we had incorrect information, that information would also be put into the case management system under the notes field for us to be able to run reports or be able to know exactly what happened in that case. So if you want to go on, Claudia, to the next screen, please. Yep, that's the one. So the process that we have going, the initial process of how the appointment reminder system works is you initially go through an intake screening process. During that process, the intake worker will ask the applicant whether or not they have the capabilities through their cell phones or smartphones to be able to receive text message or voice message. And during that initial intake screening, if the applicant requests that an appointment reminder be sent to them, then that will be flagged, and an appointment will be made, and then a message will automatically be set up through the appointment reminder system to send out either a text message to the applicant or a voice message. How the system will also work is if an attorney wants to do a follow-up appointment with a client, they will be able to go and set up a message through the appointment reminder system in our case management system, and put in the information there, the date, what documents are needed, and then the system will send out a message to the client. Again, that's going to be either the option of call or text. And then the other feature that we're looking to add is to also add Spanish as a language. We have a large number of clients and applicants that speak Spanish, so the ability to be able to send them an appointment reminder in the language that they can clearly understand will help to increase additional access to service for our clients. One of the criteria that we also will be setting up as part of the system is to have an exclusive number that's designated that comes from LSMV. So when the applicant receives the call or the text on their number, it will be a designated number that they can call back on and be able to either change their appointment or cancel their appointment with us. So those are our basic steps that we have. Again, the appointment reminder system is a project that we're continuing to work on. It has not been finalized. We're still in the stages of it. Within the next coming months, we hope to be doing usability testing, and we're looking forward to seeing how our focus group will react to the way, or their feedback from the appointment reminder system and the impact that it will have on our clients.
Okay. Thank you, Raquel. This is the first time that I know of that appointment reminder systems are being developed using SMS technology in the context of legal aid information seekers or applicants. This same process that Raquel is taking the lead on nationally in terms of developing a strategy could be conceptualized in the context of a court and a self-help center run and managed by a legal aid group or by a court or in partnership with a court like it happens in some states. So we're looking forward to hearing updates on how this goes and seeing what parts of this can be replicated in other settings. So I hope that the audience likes this concept and is interested in learning more about it. So we're going to move on to the other kind of new emerging theme and trend that's happening in the context of people who need help and don't have lawyers. And it is the issue of lay advocacy tools. This has a policy component in the sense that the state bars, who are the state bars and the Supreme Courts, who are the two bodies generally that approve who can provide legal services or not in a state, at least in 3 states right now, they're looking at different ways and different options of modifying the rules of practice to allow non-attorneys to provide either legal services or legal assistance. So in a sense, the concept of building lay advocacy tools that are online or on handhelds where lay advocates could actually play a role, like with Maine and Jim's Mailbag. This discussion is happening in 3 states, and it may be something that continues happening because we all know that there's not enough money to meet all the needs of the low income, and there's not enough public interest lawyers, nor is there enough pro bono attorneys or the resources to coordinate large pro bono programs. So some of this is already happening with online forums and large group clinics. So it's already happening, but I think it's a trend that we're going to see. And so what I wanted to do is show some examples in the area of healthcare, because they have been doing, like I said, behavioral modification and health education since like 1960, whenever public health was created by Hendrik Bloom. And so they have been working with people, supporting them through healthcare crises, with lay advocates in community settings, and now these are going online. Generally, some of the differences in that setting is that they can be moderated forums, and I'm going to show you a moderated forum today, or they cannot be moderated. And generally, they are recommended by doctors or nurse practitioners as a way to improve compliance with the treatment plan and improve the overall health outcomes, helping people to learn and become empowered and develop, a support network as they go through the issue that they're dealing with. In the healthcare context, there is an overall understanding already that what you're doing with your support system is not necessarily medical treatment. So they have conceptually kind of advanced a little bit further that we are in healthcare. So the first one that I wanted to show you is this nonprofit called breastcancer.org, which basically has the mission of giving good information and up-to-date information to people who may have been diagnosed, may have history of breast cancer in the family, or who are in the middle of treatment or are survivors. And if you check out their website, and I will put that is already in the resources, they have 2 chat rooms. In the chat rooms that they have, registration is always required. So in this case, it's not anonymous, lay advocacy or support group type services. People are registering, and they have an online community forum. So this is an example of a discussion post, and I picked a very, kind of one of the very beginning. They have many, many of them if you want to check them out, and they can get very, very, very specific. But you can see here that they are, answering kind of like what Jim's Mailbag is doing. They're answering specific questions and providing back resources. So that is one, and I'm not going to go more into what they have in the discussion groups. They can get pretty nitty-gritty on the clinical diagnosis issues. So I encourage people to check this out. This is moderated by a doctor, but, it doesn't have to be every piece is not necessarily answered by the doctor. Some of the community members weigh in. People who have had similar experience or similar clinical criteria are sharing what they know, and it's very active and very dynamic. So this is one example. The other one that is emerging that I actually think is fascinating is in the app world, in the handheld, particular cell phone type device, is that now there are interdisciplinary new apps that are approaching, that are coming out, where it may not even necessarily be a legal group taking the lead. And I am sharing here something from the Center of Excellence of Elder Abuse and Neglect, which is in California. This is a national center, and they work with a lot of people that work in nursing homes and therapists, family members, trying to educate the public about abuse and neglect of elders. So they just recently, I believe in December, they released this new mobile app that is a combination of clinical, medical, social work, and legal information. And so if you download the app, it's very cool because it has the law. This is the legal part. It has the warning signs, which is the more social work health education component, and then it has, medical kind of information, facts that we know, okay, these are the areas where bruises can occur. So if you go into a nursing home or you go visit somebody, you're a therapist, and you're going and you're seeing patterns like this in a nursing home, they give you the tools that you can use to report that abuse, and they give you the laws so you can double check it, etc. These, I think, is something that is not going to stop. I actually hope it's something that continues, where we can start creating applications that are not just legal, focus on legal center, but we can be working with other groups working on similar areas, be it employment, Department of Labor, a host of other groups that are providing information that has multiple components, not just legal, and developing applications that are holistic. So I am going to stop here and give a chance for questions. Should we unmute the audience, Jillian, or encourage them to put them on the chat? And I have the resources here.
Yeah, so folks can either put your questions into the chat or press *6 to unmute yourself if you have a question that you just want to ask via phone.
Yes, the presentation will be posted in LSNTAB, and the announcement is going to go through the LS Tech list. And we posted that information on the chat, how to find the LS Tech list if you're not a member of it. And you go to lsntab.org, and that's how you get access to sign up to the list. Okay, so as you can see, there's new tools that are coming down the pike, and we have the ones that have been in use for anywhere from 6, maybe 7 years to 4 years, that are kind of becoming very well understood, like the web chat, the online forms, and the websites, with variations on the themes, taking the use of those tools, making them more advanced with the mini portals that I showed, with a lot of the graphical videos and information, checklist and triage tools like Gordon showed. Expert systems and triage will be hopefully coming down the pike. And then SMS texting for appointment reminders, SMS texting to help connect, find help. The latest, the one that I don't think has yet happened, in a community kind of lay user group forum, where people that are going through divorce or custody battle could post and have answers from other people going through the same thing, who are attorneys. I don't think that has been developed, but if the policy changes and if people realize that there's not enough lawyers to go around, those are tools that hopefully will be coming to be piloted and be tested, hopefully at some point in the future. Anybody have any basic questions about any of the kind of core tools we talked about, or want me to go over or have the panelists cover parts of their work that was not covered? No? Okay. Well, thank you to all of those who stayed through the end. I hope you found this helpful, and hopefully you will come back and dig into some of these tools we're sharing. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of the panelists. And you can find, this is where we're going to be posting everything. So thank you for joining, and have a good afternoon.
And really quickly before we sign off, I just want to note that I put a SurveyMonkey link into the chat box. which is here. If you could go ahead and fill that out and give us some feedback on this training, that would be great. And also, I just wanted to point your attention, the next Pro Bono Net hosted webinar will be held on October 23rd during the Celebrate Pro Bono Week, and it will be on Innovations and Technology-Enabled Pro Bono. You will also be able to find the recording and slides of this posted to the Legal Services and TAP page here and on the Pro Bono Net statewide website. And thank you all for joining.